let's be real, we all use AI tools pretty much every day. They feel kind of magical, right? But what if there's a much deeper pattern being built just behind that friendly chat window? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the architecture of a new system that's quietly reshaping how we think, how we work, and maybe even how we see the world. So it all starts with this tiny, simple moment. A 12-year-old is asked to spell the word restaurant. His dad says, sound it out. And the son's immediate response? Can't I just ask ChatGPT? Now, it's so easy to just write that off as kids these days, but that simple question reveals this profound shift in our basic reflexes. And that's really the heart of it. The instinct to actually work through a problem, to struggle with it, and learn from that struggle. That's being replaced by a much more efficient instinct. Just ask the AI. And look, this isn't about spelling. This is a fundamental change in how we, as humans, access and even generate intelligence. That one simple question points to this massive system being built all around us right now. And to really get our heads around it, let's look at OpenAI's recent developer conference. On the surface, it looked like just another batch of product updates. But if you look at the underlying pattern, you see something much, much bigger. First, you just have to grasp the sheer scale of this thing. OpenAI is reporting 800 million weekly active users on ChatGPT. That's roughly 10% of all of humanity. 1 in 10 people on Earth are using a single interface to access intelligence every single week. The scale is just staggering, and it's the foundation for everything that comes next. So here's the crucial point. OpenAI isn't just building better AI products. What their announcements really show is that they're building the operating system for human intelligence itself, a brand new infrastructure layer for our digital lives. Take their apps in ChatGPT announcement, for example, and let's look at Spotify. Before, you'd open the Spotify app directly to make a playlist. Simple. But now the flow's totally different. You just ask ChatGPT to make a playlist for you, and it operates Spotify for you, right there inside the chat. Now, Spotify is still there, of course. It didn't vanish, but your relationship to it has completely flipped upside down. You're not really using Spotify through ChatGPT anymore. You're using ChatGPT, and it just happens to be accessing Spotify as one of its many tools. This is what the source material calls the intelligence layer, and it's the exact same move Google made with search. Remember? We stopped going directly to websites. We just went to Google first. Google became the layer between us and the internet. Well, now, a single platform is on track to become the primary layer between us and, well, pretty much everything else. Okay, so this new layer is unbelievably efficient, it's helpful, that's why we all use it. But that efficiency comes with a price tag, one that's usually invisible until it's way too late. So let's talk about the price we're actually paying. I want you to really think about this for a second. Seriously. Not, would it be inconvenient? But could you actually perform your job at the speed and quality that's required if these tools just vanished overnight? For a growing number of us, if we're being honest, the answer is probably not. And this leads to something called cognitive dependency. It's what happens when we don't just outsource simple tasks, but the actual skills themselves. The mental muscles we use for deep thinking, for problem solving, for creation, they start to weaken from lack of use. Here's another question to mull over. When you have an idea, what's your first instinct? Is it to test it out yourself, or to ask an AI if it's a good idea? If these questions are making you even a little bit uncomfortable, that discomfort is a signal. That's you sensing this shift happening inside yourself. This timeline kind of projects that pattern onto one specific field, software development. With autonomous coding agents like Codex, the first year feels like you have superpowers. But just look at the progression. By year 4, even senior developers are rusty. And by year 6, a critical bug shows up that the AI can't fix. And, well, the humans who could have fixed it are no longer able to. And that is the concept of sovereignty debt. It's the bill that eventually comes for all that borrowed efficiency. We trade away our own capability, our own sovereignty, for immediate convenience. And one day, that debt gets called in. Now, you might be thinking, come on, this is just the same old fear of new technology. People were worried that writing would destroy our memory. And you know what? That's a fair point. But the real issue here isn't about rejecting the technology. It's about the choice we have in how we use it. So this really lays out the two paths in front of us. There's blind adoption, which is basically autopilot, letting AI slowly replace our skills. And then there's conscious integration, where we intentionally use AI to supercharge the skills we already have. The problem is, most of us are on that first path without even realizing there's another option. So, how do we get onto that second path? How do we use these incredible tools without losing our own power in the process? Well, the good news is the source provides a pretty clear framework for this conscious integration. So, here are 5 principles for keeping your cognitive sovereignty intact. First, the 80-20 rule. Test yourself. Can you do 80% of your critical work without AI? If not, you might be dependent. Second, control your infrastructure. Use systems you can actually swap out. Third, preserve the why behind your skills. Don't just outsource the how. Fourth, use multiple tools so you don't get locked into one vendor. And finally, and this is so crucial for the next generation, teach the foundational skills first before AI ever enters the picture. But look, this isn't just a challenge for individuals. This is an infrastructure-level question that needs coordinated answers. Policymakers have to ask if intelligence should be regulated like a public utility. Developers need to ask what they're truly optimizing for. And educators, well, they have to figure out how to build foundational skills in a world where the AI can always just give you the answer. And so we end here. This new intelligence layer is being built right now, whether we're paying attention or not. And the infrastructure for our own sovereignty, that's not going to be built by any one person. It's a collective challenge. And the final, most important question is the one it asks of you.